We think we know him, the stoic face on the dollar bill, the flawless founding father. But what if the man who birthed a nation was haunted by shadows we were never meant to see? Behind the powdered wig and the stern gaze lies a story of narrow escapes, secret societies, and a physical resilience that felt almost supernatural. This is not the history you learned in school. This is the shadow archive of George Washington. 1753, a young Washington plunges into the frozen wilderness of the Ohio Valley. He is an ambitious surveyor, but he is walking straight into a trap. Death nearly claims him twice, first by an assassin's bullet that misses by an inch, then by the icy grip of the Allegheny River. Why did he survive when so many others perished? Some say it was luck. Others whisper it was something much darker. His first real taste of war wasn't a glorious victory. It was a bloody catastrophe. At Fort Necessity, Washington surrendered to the French. It was the only time he ever surrendered in his life. The humiliation was deep, but the lesson was deeper. He learned that in the theater of power, your image is your greatest weapon. He began to craft the general long before he ever wore the uniform. Throughout his life, Washington was a magnet for disease. Smallpox, malaria, dysentery, and pleurisy, any one of these should have killed him in the 18th century. Yet he rose from his sickbed time and again. This invincibility created a myth around him. His soldiers began to believe he was divinely protected, a man who couldn't be stopped by lead or lung rot. The year is 1755, the Battle of the Monongahela. British soldiers are being slaughtered all around him. 2 horses are shot out from under Washington. 4 bullets pierce his coat, yet not a single one grazes his skin. An Indian chief, witnessing this, ordered his braves to stop firing. He later said, "Washington was not born to be killed by a bullet. I had a vision." But the hero has a darker side. Washington was a man of the Enlightenment, yet he was deeply embedded in the secret word of Freemasonry. Joining at the age of 20, he rose through the ranks. What rituals did he perform under the cover of night? How much of the American foundation was built on Masonic architecture and occult symbolism? The shadows and the large run deep. Then there's the matter of his teeth. The legend says they were wooden. The reality is far more unsettling. Washington's dentures were made of ivory, gold, and most disturbingly, human teeth. Records show he purchased teeth from enslaved people at Mount Vernon. The leader of the free world wore the literal remains of the unfree in his mouth just to speak his speeches. As the Revolutionary War began, Washington became a master of deception. He didn't just fight with muskets. He fought with whispers. He created the Culper spy ring, a shadow network of ordinary citizens, tavern keepers, and socialites who moved secrets through invisible ink and coded messages. He knew that to win a war, you must first control the darkness. The winter at Valley Forge. This is where the myth of the suffering patriot was forged. While his men starved and froze, losing limbs to gangrene, Washington remained a pillar of stone. But behind closed doors, he was fighting a mutiny of the mind. He was paranoid, certain that his own generals were plotting to replace him. In the silence of the snow, the shadows were closing in. Did Washington have a vision at Valley Forge? Some accounts, though debated, claim he was visited by a ghostly apparition that showed him the future of the United States. 3 great perils that would nearly destroy the Union. Was it a hallucination brought on by stress? Or did the general truly see the blood that would be spilled in the centuries to come? 1781, Yorktown. The world turned upside down. With the help of the French, Washington trapped the British. But even in victory, he was cold. When the British attempted to surrender to the French instead of him, he refused to acknowledge them. He demanded absolute submission. He wasn't just a general anymore. He was becoming a living icon, a king in all but name. The war ended, and the most dangerous moment arrived. His officers, angry over lack of pay, wanted to march on Congress and install Washington as a dictator. He stood before them, took out his glasses, which they had never seen, and said, "I have grown gray in your service, and now find myself growing blind." In that moment, he chose the Republic over a crown. Or did he? As the first president, Washington was obsessed with his precedents. He knew every move he made would be carved in stone. He walked a razor's edge between being a leader and being a monarch. He rode a white horse, held formal levees, and kept a calculated distance from the public. He was a man playing the role of a god, terrified of showing a single human crack. Mount Vernon was his sanctuary, but it was also a place of immense tension. He was a man who spoke of liberty while owning hundreds of human beings. He spent years tracking down Ona Judge, an enslaved woman who escaped his household. He used his legal power to circumvent laws that would have freed her. The shadow of slavery is the one he could never outrun. His health finally began to fail him in a way he couldn't ignore. The invincible man was fading. In his final years, he became increasingly disillusioned with the political infighting of his successors. He saw the spirit of party as a poison that would eventually tear the country apart. His farewell address wasn't just a goodbye. It was a dire warning from a dying man. December 1799. A simple ride in the rain led to a throat infection. But it wasn't the illness that killed him, it was the medicine. His doctors, following the science of the day, drained nearly 40% of his blood in less than 24 hours. They literally bled the life out of the father of the country. Even at the end, he was a victim of the shadows of ignorance. His final words were, "'Tis well, but was it?" As he lay dying, he was terrified of being buried alive. He made his secretary promise not to put him in the vault for at least 3 days. He had seen enough of the world to know that the line between life and death, and between truth and myth, is often thinner than we think. Even in death, they wouldn't let him rest. There was a bizarre proposal to resurrect him using galvanism, an early form of electric shock. A doctor suggested pumping blood back into his veins to bring him back to life. Fortunately, the family refused. The general was allowed to remain in the shadows, but his legend was just beginning to be distorted. Today, Washington is a monument. We see him in marble and oil paintings, sanitized and perfect. But the real Washington was a man of immense contradictions, a spy master, a mason, a slave owner, and a survivor of impossible odds. To truly understand America, you have to look past the statue and into the darkness of the man behind it. George Washington built the stage we all stand on today, but he did so by walking through the deepest shadows of his time. What other secrets did he bury at Mount Vernon? What would he say about the nation he left behind? Some archives are meant to stay closed. Others, like this one, are only just beginning to open. Subscribe to Shadow Archives and stay in the dark.